So I'll call this meeting of South Florida Youth Commission to order on December 20th, 2022 at 7:02 p.m. We'll start with a review of the minutes from November 15th. Were there any edits or changes? Any comments on the minutes? All right. Go ahead.
Oh, I said no. Sorry.
Okay. May I have a motion on the minutes?
I move to approve the minutes from November 2022.
Is there a second?
I'll
Is there a
second.
second?
I'll second.
Okay. So we'll have a roll call vote. Sarah Micus,
Aye.
Susan Byer,
Aye.
Karen Ingram,
Aye.
Nancy Sutton,
Aye.
David Joyner,
Aye.
and Lauren Ritchie. Aye. We'll move to the director's report for highlights from Sarah.
Hi, everybody. Let's see. So winter wishes wrapped, well, actually, so I have to always remind myself, this is December meeting, but we're talking about November on the director's report. Okay, so still there was a lot of winter wishes activity, lots of additional applications were collected, gift card tags were distributed. And some donor groups were able to have their gift cards collected early, which was great. So there was a lot of that activity in the month of November. Let's see. Shannon's been doing a lot of work with QPR, connecting with various schools to try to bring QPR to staff members, but also talking with the high school about rolling out QPR for students. There's a lot of steps that need to happen first with regard to that, so that there's a really strong safety net in place for students before they start getting trained. So that's been a conversation she's been having with them. She also debuted a new workshop, Say It With Love, which is great. I attended a dress rehearsal of Say It With Love and enjoyed every minute of it, which was great. We've also been doing a lot of work with our substance use prevention program coalition. So there used to be a really long name for the coalition, the Northborough Southborough Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition. We've been working with a marketing specialist, and we have changed our name to Encompass because for several reasons, but mostly because we're trying to create this visual of our coalition encompassing the two communities of Northborough and Southborough and working together. So if you see the word Encompass on there, that is for substance misuse prevention efforts that we're doing within the two communities. Let's see, what else do I want to tell you? We did a little bit of outreach at Santa Day. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking at upcoming events that happened in December also. Anything in particular that people want to know about that's been happening, or anything on the highlights that you want to ask questions about?
It was very detailed, as always.
We have our stats there, and I just want to give you guys a heads up that in the new year, I am, as I like to always do, sort of revamp the way that we're collecting and reporting information. Hopefully with the addition of my senior center, we will actually not have to manually create these reports. My senior center can generate these and we can try different variables and just plug those in and it will generate a report for us. But in the meantime, because that's part of our FY24 budget request, I am going to make some changes to how we collect and report the information. Not dramatic changes. You'll still get all the same information. There might actually even be more than what you're currently getting, but just wanted to give you that heads up. You have an update on our operating budget there. And then with regard to the strategic plan, I feel like my focus is mostly on me personally focusing on continuing to try to get these IT systems in place. We are looking at Simple Practice right now, which is an electronic health record system very similar to Therapy Notes, which we use. The major difference is that it has a messaging capability built into it, which is a need that we have since town email is considered public record. We're really trying to move our communications with residents around the services they're getting from us off of town email. We do have a consent form that people are instructed to read and sign off on, saying they understand the risks associated with that. But we still would feel better about it if we could have a HIPAA compliant platform to communicate back and forth with people on. So we spent some of November doing a free trial of Simple Practice and having a demo meeting with their sales rep. And so I've taken it next to the Municipal Technology Committee for their review. So hopefully that's something that we can also acquire as part of our FY24 budget.
Would this replay, sorry, hold
Go
on.
ahead. Oh, no, you weren't. You actually weren't muted and now you've muted yourself.
Sorry, I have my bird squawking in the background. Would this replace Therapy Notes?
Yes, it would.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll get to it when we talk about the budget request. You guys may remember me talking about something called Tiger Connect.
Mhm.
We were looking for a messaging platform for the very reasons that I already talked about. But what we had previously been looking at is keeping Therapy Notes, but adding a whole separate platform, a whole separate software called Tiger Connect. And instead of having two separate solutions, this would be all in one. So I have already told the town finance team that our budget request is apt to change depending on the outcomes of our exploration of Simple Notes. So I have to meet with Municipal Technology Committee. They have questions, security related questions that they need to ask. So this is not a done deal. And the IT department also needs to vet the software, but so far in terms of meeting our needs and answering our questions, we're pretty happy with the idea. So that would be, instead of having Therapy Notes and Tiger Connect, we would just have Simple Practice and My Senior Center, because unfortunately, we just can't seem to find everything we need in one platform. So let's see what else with regard to, I don't know if there's any other questions on the strategic plan progress report. But again, I feel like this IT stuff is really sort of foundational for us to build upon. So a lot of the other goals and strategies that we are planning to work on will come after we've finally figured that piece out. Are there any questions?
No, we could move on to the budget update, which is in the packet.
Yes, would it be helpful for me to show that on the screen? Lauren?
If you have it up, you can.
Yeah, that'd be great, because I wasn't able to print it on my temperamental printer.
Oh, can you enable sharing,
Oh,
Lauren?
sure. That should do it.
All right, can you all see that?
Yes.
Do you need it to be bigger?
No, that looks great.
Looks good.
Okay. So this column here is our FY23 budget, and over here is what we're asking for in FY24. This is what I've submitted to the town finance team. And actually what you all have already reviewed and voted on to support. This here is the breakdown of salaries. I think this is probably another agenda item I'm trying to recall, but we are in the midst of a salary study, and the personnel board, the recommendation from the consultant is to reclassify Christina's position, which will have implications for the FY24 budget. Actually, is this correct? It says FY23 on it. Let me just go back up here for a second. Yeah, it's the right number. It's just I didn't update it to say FY24. So this is the salary information as of now, but there are, depending on the outcomes of the personnel board's work, there will be some implications for the FY24 budget. Some of it will have implications for our budget, but they're also setting aside funding in an extra, I'm not going to articulate this correctly, but the money will live in a different account for any additional funding that's needed as a result of the outcomes of that study. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, so actually, speaking of which, this second budget that's in here is slightly higher than the first one I showed you, and that's because the first one I showed you, I just wanted to show what I submitted. The second budget, there's already implications from the salary study. We heard from the town treasurer, Mr. Valentine, that we needed to add some funding to our budget for salaries because of the new salary step grid that they have adopted. So this is just an update from him as to what our actual budget request would look like with that additional funding for salaries. And again, the salary or the personnel information. And then this is the accompanying memo that I shared with our submitted budget request. So as you can see here, salaries, I made a little note that we anticipate a conversation with the personnel board regarding our job descriptions and grading with the newly adopted salary grid, which will likely have implications for our FY24 budget. So this number may change. It already has slightly. And then the other piece that I've talked about also is software. So you can see here that we were requesting money for therapy notes, my senior center, and Tiger Connect, because at the time that we needed to submit this, we haven't finished our investigation of Simple Practice. But that's why I made a note here that we're continuing to talk with the with MTC and the IT department about that. And depending on the outcomes of that exploration, we may have an adjustment to make to our request. And actually, Therapy Notes and Tiger Connect is more expensive than just Simple Practice by itself. So it would be a savings of almost $2,000 that would come off of our budget request, which is good. But everything else that's here, we've already talked about, and there's no other changes to that. I believe that's it for budget information. So I don't have any new updates. There is there's a personnel board meeting, which again relates to another agenda item, but there's a personnel board meeting on January 9th at 3:30, which is when I believe the personnel board intends to talk about reclassifying Christina's position, which would mean she'd go from a grade 3 to a grade 4.
We can go ahead and talk about this. It's the next on the agenda.
Oh, perfect. So yeah, the personnel board hired a consultant through the Collins Center, and they've been conducting a salary study. They do this approximately every 4 years just to compare our town employees' pay to that of neighboring communities with comparable positions. And you may remember that I brought this up at the last meeting because there was a paragraph about our department specifically saying, because of the number of changes and updates that need to be made to our job descriptions, that we couldn't be included or we couldn't comprehensively be included in the salary study. So we were included, but in terms of understanding whether any of us needed reclassification, that was not something the consultant was able to assess. So since then, the personnel board has asked the consultant to continue to have interviews with staff to better understand jobs. And while we still need to make updates to the job descriptions and have those reviewed and approved by the personnel board, they did feel as though they could go ahead and make recommendations regarding reclassification for our employees if anybody needed that. And so the outcomes of those interviews, the only change is that they're recommending Christina's position be reclassified from administrative assistant to business administrator, I believe, which is instead of a grade 3, it would be a grade 4. Make sure I'm getting that information correct. Yes, a business administrator. So, and part of that has to do with the fact that it's a full-time position, but also there's some pieces of her job that have some programmatic aspect to it, in the sense that she manages the Winter Wishes program and the Camp Scholarship program. We are talking about, in the coming year, she and I working a little more closely on both of those programs because they're so large that it's a lot of responsibility for one individual. So, so that's really the only update I have on the salary study. I do believe that the information that was submitted to the town from the Collins Center is included in the packet for your reference. I have fewer concerns now than I did before. I just need to, a few things that are sort of outstanding is that I need to submit or come before the personnel board to have our job descriptions reviewed and approved they really need to be updated. Shannon's, the program coordinator's job description still says that that position works 400 hours for the year, for example. So we've evolved over time, but the job descriptions haven't evolved with us. So we need to really address that and make sure that they clearly identify the work of the employees that are holding those positions. And then we also have an outstanding item. You may remember that the town set aside ARPA money for a part-time clinician. If you guys remember, we submitted that to the ARPA committee for request of those funds, and they approved that. So because that has to be an employee and not a contracted position, that also needs to go before the personnel board to be included in the salary administration plan, even though it's just a temporary position. So that's another job description that I've already written and hoping to have their approval on, so that it can be included, which then means that we could hire for that position after town meeting. So those are the outstanding personnel board items.
And did anyone have any comments on either the budget update or the personnel salary study update?
Sarah, not as much of a question, but just a confirmation. You noted in the salary request that the study that's ongoing, the salary study, may have implications for the budget. So that, just to be clear, they may come back and show that some of the, or maybe if not all the positions may be in line for a raise. Is that, or increase? Is that accurate?
That's right. Yeah, they're working on right now. In fact, I think they voted at the last meeting. So every employee is getting a 4% increase, but then they've also adopted a new salary grid with steps, which is different than what we used to have. Was a salary grades that had a minimum, a midpoint, and a maximum. This actually is steps 1 through 15 for each of the grades. So people will get a percentage increase, but also move up a step each year. So the way that they're placing each of us on the grid, on this new grid, is they're saying, okay, give this employee a 4% pay increase, and then take a look at what grade they are, find the amount on the grid, and place them on the step based off of the amount that the rate that they're at 4%, without it being under. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I
Okay.
think so, yeah.
So so that's how they're placing each of us on the grid. So there is a pay increase for people as a result of that. And then with Christina being reclassified, there will be implications for her position as well. And I think depending on the timing, there's a few pieces I'm not clear on because they've talked about so many different things, but there was conversation about implementing the grid or the pay increase in at midpoint in FY24 because it's going to be costly for the town to upgrade everybody's salaries. So to lessen the financial impact, they were talking about implementing this on January 1st of 2024. So that's halfway through FY24 instead of starting that on July 1st of 2023. Does that make sense?
Yes.
What I'm unclear of is whether or not where they landed on that. So I'm not sure if this is taking place on July 1st or halfway through the fiscal year. So I have to get some clarification on that. But-
You answered a question I was going to ask, which was, will any of it be retroactive once they determine, okay, this is the correct sort of salary position that these folks should be at, and
Mhm.
you kind of answered that.
Well, good.
Any other questions? Comments? All right. We'll go to the strategic plan and strengthening the youth commission. We have in our packet a list that I put together based on the notes from our last meeting. And would welcome any comments on that. And maybe we can, I don't know if we need a vote, but maybe it'd be a formal document for our group, so we can maybe take a vote on it.
Would you like me to screen share that?
Sure. It's something to start with at least, and I think we can add to it as we go and find more information. That might be helpful. So we had interested parties completing a citizen activity form, meeting with the chair, meeting with the director, reviewing the strategic plan, the website and the Facebook page. I don't know if there's an Instagram before.
I think we have one, but it's not as updated as Facebook is.
Sure, okay. We could put out their ways of participating in meetings based on watching other Southborough board meetings, reviewing the roles and descriptions document that we have for our youth commission, attending or watching a youth commission meeting, and attendance at trainings would be really encouraged to know what some of the services are presented by the SYFS. And then I kind of separated out into the interested parties that would be presented to the, or based on their citizen activity form, the town of Southborough Select Board would invite them to potentially invite them to a select board meeting, interview them. And then if there was an appointment by the select board, they'd be sworn in, have the ethics training. Is the ethics training the conflict of interest training, or is that separate? Is that the same thing? I couldn't find-
I want to venture to say it's the same thing, but I am not 100%
I think
sure.
I only had to do the two. One was called ethics and one was called open meeting law. So
Yeah,
Okay,
ethics was definitely about the conflict of interest. I think it was the same.
yeah, I think it's called ethics though. Yeah.
Yeah.
good. So that's what we have from our last meeting's notes. If anyone has any additions or edits.
I think
It's
it looks
more
great.
For you know, the chair to walk someone through that was interested to walk someone through the process and to solidify the process for all of us, because we have few and far between turnover, so that's nice. But in between, you kind of forget how to how to do this.
The only thing I might add is share any kinds of printed material, brochures, flyers, that kind of thing. I mean, not about one particular event, but I know that we have some kind of informational type packet, I presume, which would, just provide, because I know when I started, it's a lovely that we have so much resources now to educate somebody who's interested in joining the board. When I was joined, whenever, 10, 15 years ago, I don't know, but There was not anything. There was like a printed brochure. So I was just thinking if there's any kind of packet that we could put together, a welcome packet or thanks for your interest packet. That might be nice to share with them with just kind of a basic introduction to the department and the people, you know, the staff, the board members, that kind of thing.
Sounds great.
And what was,
Yeah,
Lauren,
go
what was
ahead.
good is what was good is, I think you had, if you show that, Sarah, can you share that thing again, the doc that we just had? Okay, so meet with the chair of youth commission, meet with the director of youth and family service. So what was great was I met with you, so you meet with the chair and then you actually introduced us via email, and said, oh, I'm going to introduce you to Sarah. And so like you kind of set up that whole thing too,
Mhm.
So like I met with you and then you introduced us via email and then I think Christina called and set that all up. So it was nice that that was all seamless. So
A warm handoff.
yeah. It doesn't have to be worded. It was just nice that
Mhm.
it wasn't a blind meeting with like, the director because we had met with you first and then you had put us all on an email chain and everything like that. So
Okay. Introduction to the director. By
via
the chair.
email or something. I don't know. Maybe it's not even worth mentioning, but I thought it was nice because it wasn't just like, who am I meeting? And, so.
Mhm. Mhm. Right, and you don't feel like you're cold calling somebody
Right.
that you don't know.
I think that's worth saying, so you don't just say, hey, reach out and call this person.
Yeah, it was nice. It wasn't like, yeah. exactly.
Okay. So have that, as far as having a packet, we certainly could do that, but a lot of the things are not. I think it's easier, thinking through the process I just went through, it's easier as chair to kind of say, here's a few documents, attached to this email, and then here's some links for you. Maybe here's the process.
I think
But-
that's fine. I don't think we need to reinvent the wheel. I think if we have stuff that's available, either in printed form or in digital form, whatever we can share that they can, get a idea of what the organization does. And
Mhm.
besides going on a website or
Mhm.
Facebook page or whatever, it's nice to just maybe give them some additional materials.
So
'Cause I know-
instead of a packet, I'll maybe just add share flyers or informational.
Yeah, share or,
Maybe Lauren, I'm picturing if I were writing this, obviously do however you want, but maybe as part of the meeting with the chair and part of the meeting with myself or whoever the director is, I could picture myself putting in parentheses, providing some materials to whoever the person is that I'm meeting with at that time during the meeting. Our marketing materials change quite often based off of whatever program we're offering at the time. We do have a list of who all of our current staff are that we've been using to tell the schools with background information about each of us. Actually, that's on our website too, but anyway, I could picture that being part of the meeting also.
Yeah, I'll make that a sub point. So we would have receive examples of current marketing materials under meet with the director.
Sure.
And then we would also amend this to have an introduction to the director by the chair. And do you see any other amendments or comments? I mean, we could look at this every year annually and get a sense of how we need to shape it as we move along.
Yeah, it might be a living document as we learn. I think it's a vast improvement from where we were a year ago. So I'm really happy about this because I think it just provides a lot of necessary information for a potential board member to make a decision whether they wanted to be on the board, and then once how they, can actively engage on the board.
I agree. I think
What
it's
is, what is
concrete-
YS? Is that supposed to be YC at the top? Or am I missing something?
It is, sorry.
No, no, I'm like, there's so many
Good
acronyms.
catch.
FYSC, FYES, okay.
David?
No, I was just gonna say, it's a very thoughtful and comprehensive onboarding process. I'm on another board, and I think others could use this as a model or example of how to bring somebody on. So I think it's very well done. And I think one of the ways to test it is when you have a new person come on, is after they go through it, is to check in with them to see how it went, what went well, what could possibly be improved in the future, but very thoughtful process.
So maybe we should actually have a check-in at the end of this process, onboarding.
Add
Yeah.
that to the list.
Yeah.
Yep.
New commission members.
I
All
have
right.
I have a
Yep.
couple of questions, Lauren.
Sure.
I lost one of them already, but one of them is, oh, I know what both of them are. You had talked about reviewing this annually. One other thought I had was that the job descriptions that you guys have worked on, that I was just thinking, how at the end of each fiscal year, usually the June meeting, you all vote to appoint somebody on the board as the chair and the co-chair, et cetera, that maybe annually as part of that process, you review the job descriptions to make sure that they still feel accurate, and also review this checklist.
Right, so maybe May-ish or so.
Sure, yeah. Really, that was more of a comment than a question, I guess. The actual question that I have is, though, because Christina, or our administrative assistant, helps support the board, do you want her to retain sort of an official copy of this, like she has with the job descriptions
Yes,
piece too? Okay, I just want to make sure that I communicate that will be coming to her, so that she knows to file that for you guys.
definitely.
Okay.
I think it's helpful for her to have the kind of final folder on
Mhm.
this. I have everything in a folder, but if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, I'm not sure it'll
Oh,
make a
don't say
flight.
that.
May I have any other comments or?
This is just a question for the group. Did we want to publish on anywhere, like a frequency of meetings, duration, like, is that supposed to be in any of this? Like, set an expectation for a new member, like there will be monthly meetings?
That's
Good point.
in that job description.
Oh, okay.
So it outlines expectations for generally board members, but also for the chair and the co-chair or
Okay.
vice chair. I'm not sure, right, Lauren? I'm pretty sure
Yes,
that
it
that's the
does.
case.
It doesn't say that we tend to meet on Tuesday evenings or anything like that, though.
Mm.
It's just about the expectations for each role.
Right, and I think that was decided because, things could change, that
Right.
it may not always be on a Tuesday evening, but it does say once a month.
Yeah. I don't know if we need to put that in there or if that would just be, probably something that would come up when the chair meets with the applicant,
Mhm.
but we can,
I do think, Lauren, when you initially emailed, it was in there, because I remember seeing that there were once a month meetings.
Okay,
I know we didn't have an official document, but I think it was in your introduction email.
okay. I don't want to say that, people have to definitely be around for Tuesday meetings to a new applicant, because it could be that we would have to shift a little bit for a new applicant if warranted, so.
I mean,
um,
maybe just say that we meet generally once a month and not necessarily say that we,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what that job descriptions document says, so that it's flexible.
Okay, any other comments? So, can I have a motion to approve this as amended?
Oh, Karen, I see you talking, but
Sorry, I move to approve the amended onboarding process documentation.
There a second? Okay. So let's see, Sarah Micas? Whoops,
oh, you're muted.
and writing details, Sarah,
Hi.
Susan,
hi,
Karen,
Aye.
Nancy,
aye.
and David,
Aye.
and Lauren, I. All right, I think that's great. So let's see, next is outreach training about need-based services and social services. That would be Sarah.
Yes. Okay, so this is really the last category of, so just to recap where we've been so far. We talked about mental health services. Last week, we talked about prevention programs, and this is the last of the 3 categories of service that we offer, which is need-based services, or also has been known to be called social services. And really, this is where our department offers financial, or sort of steps in to help identify resources for a family or an individual who's struggling financially. So typically that looks like, someone who's having a housing issue, who needs a referral to the food pantry, somebody who might need to utilize our emergency fund. And so some of these, again, I'm trying to sort of give the elevator pitch without going into too much detail, but want everybody to feel comfortable with how to communicate it. So we have some programs that are ours and some that we are an intake site for. So the programs that are ours, or really not necessarily youth and family services, but Southborough specific, are the Winter Wishes program and the Camp Scholarship program. And they're ours in the sense that they were created in town for residents, as opposed to something like fuel assistance, for example, which is a benefit that's provided by the state. Residents can essentially, what I think the easiest thing to say to somebody is that if you or someone is struggling financially and is in need of assistance, that they should call our office. Because what we end up doing is we will sort of triage the phone call or the person's needs. And if it's a need that we don't have a program for already, we don't say, I'm sorry, you're out of luck. We generally will do some research along with that person and try to hold their hand through the process of finding a referral to an outside agency. Typically, we have relationships with most places that people are looking for support with. So if somebody's having a housing crisis, we would refer them to one of two agencies in Worcester, since we're part of Worcester County. People don't need a referral to the food pantry, but sometimes a warm handoff, as we were talking about earlier, can be really helpful for someone who's feeling nervous about utilizing the food pantry. So what we tell the schools when we're talking to them is just to remind them that there are options. If I tell the schools, don't ever hesitate to encourage somebody to call us, because we can always get creative. In fact, we just heard from an outside nonprofit organization today asking to meet with us in January because they support the towns of Westboro and neighboring communities for families experiencing financial hardship. So there's different pots of money that exist. Whether it's through the emergency fund or Friends of the Southborough Youth Commission or the food pantry or another group entirely, we can often, the trust fund committee is another good example. We can often try to refer people to outside groups if it's not something that we can provide them help with. And we have a number of people who come to us with multiple stressors. So they've just lost their job, they've lost their home, their car has been repossessed, and they're stuck somewhere. And so we're trying to help them find multiple resources all at once. And that's sort of more case management type work. And so we'll continue to follow somebody through their process and be checking in with them to see how they're doing until they get connected with an agency that probably can do a lot more wraparound services than we're able to provide, but we're still keeping in contact with them to try to ensure that they've reached whoever they need to, if that makes sense. I will say that this category in particular has the fewest number of people utilizing our services. That's not to say there are none. We actually, I would say Winter Wishes in the Camp Scholarship Program, we have a pretty good number of people. Those are both really well-established programs. Fuel assistance though, for example, we only do 1 or 2 of those applications a year. The emergency fund, we get quite a few, and there's really an ebb and flow to it. Typically in the colder months, we hear from people a lot more. So I don't know if there's specific questions about this category, if you want to know in more detail about what some of those services are.
If somebody is in need of services, say we're out and about in the community, how would they come to you, access the services that might be available?
Mm-hmm. So typically somebody will say to a resident, you should call Youth and Family Services. Call them and tell them your situation, that you're looking to talk to somebody about financial assistance. Excuse me. So typically the first stop on the communication train is the phone call comes into Christina, and Christina will then tell them about some of what we have to offer. But if it's one of those situations that's got multiple stressors on various ends, a little more complex, she will set up an appointment for that person to meet with me. And I will have an appointment with that person, really get in writing all of the different things that they have going on, and get to work with trying to help identify resources to help their situation. So sometimes it's, all right, we're going to refer you to Metro West Legal Services. We are going to use some of the emergency fund to help you with this need. We're also going to connect you with this housing agency in Worcester. So it's a multi-pronged approach with a lot of follow-up. But basically, people just have to call us in the first place and just share that they need to talk to somebody about financial assistance.
Does the department keep a database of all these kind of resources? Well, how do you figure this out? Because there's a lot of options, and I don't know. I know my cousin has created for the city of New York City something called the Benefits Kitchen,
Mhm.
and organizations similar to ours for outreach and support, predominantly financial support. This is a database of all these kind of resources, and you put in what the family's needs are, and it
Mhm.
immediately creates a resource base. I don't know if there's anything like that available in Massachusetts, but it makes your job a lot easier.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah. No, we have, there's basically going to be the same answer every time. If it's a housing issue, it's always one of two agencies in Worcester. If
Mhm.
it's a food issue, food insecurity issue, it's always Southborough Food Pantry. So it's not extensive enough that we've needed to keep a database.
Well, yeah, it's not New York City, and
You're right.
sure
It's
the
not New York
demand-
City.
the
Yeah.
demand is not as
Mhm.
significant, but
Yeah.
I just found it an interesting way to, because it gets confusing sometimes, you
Oh,
know?
it's terribly confusing. And I think that's the other reason why we probably don't have a database. I know when I actually started in the department, we had this really, really long Word document that was created in conjunction with, between our department and the food pantry, that was called Community Resources for Those in Need. And it
Mhm.
had different sections. So it had a whole list of shelters, it had a list of food pantries, it had a list of resources for victims of domestic violence, housing support. So basically everything was categorized.
Mhm.
The problem was that this information is so rapidly changing that it was constantly outdated. And so very quickly we had to stop using it, or somebody needed to keep updating it. And half the time, I'm sure all of us can relate to this, when you give people a piece of paper, it's even if what you're saying is the same exact thing that's written on a piece of paper, people seem to just need to hear the information in a sit down with another person versus look it up on their own. I know we used to try to retain a list of resources available to people online. And we just found that, for comfort's sake and for people to really understand the information, it was easier to just schedule an appointment with them and communicate it.
No, I totally agree about that. And, but for your sake, to support you
Yeah.
and the department, it would be really, because I know, dwelling in the autism world, trying to find resources
Mhm,
for
mhm,
my son, it's a little overwhelming. And
mhm,
I wish there was like a clearinghouse or a database that somebody kept this updated,
mhm,
not
mhm,
you,
mhm,
it'd be
mhm,
nice if a state agency did this, but it's a
mhm.
it's a wish list. So
Sure.
just thought I'd throw that out there.
If anyone's listening from the state of Massachusetts,
Yes.
let's
Call
check
to
the
order.
attendees. Let's check the attendees list.
There's
and
no
see.
attendees.
Oh, man. Darn,
Sorry.
Maybe the new governor, right?
maybe.
Sarah, we also had 2022 annual report.
Yes.
I don't recall what that was.
Yeah, I think this is a repeat from last meeting. So I think what I said to you guys is that I'm going to be starting to work on the annual report. Does this ring a bell?
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay. And I wanted to I sort of had this aha moment when I was preparing for a presentation that I did out in Westwood for the Massachusetts Municipal Association on our department. And you all can probably remember that a former board member of ours, Beth Dombacher, had done some research at the library and pulled up all these old annual reports, which really I found to be very interesting and helped sort of fill in some gaps for me around the history of our department and why certain decisions were made, when they were made. I still have gaps in the information, but it occurred to me that in addition to just reporting on statistics as part of our annual report, that this is our opportunity to write a narrative so that 20 years from now, people can better understand the evolution of our department, and how we ended up, when did we start doing things? And so I'd really like to include more narrative in the annual report, and wanted to invite the Youth Commission to have an opportunity to highlight anything that you'd like to be in there, because you all have done a lot of work this year. And so I'm pretty sure that's why that's back on there. Not sure if that was brought to people's attention to have some thinking homework between last meeting and this meeting as to what might want to be said, but I am working on the report now. It's due January 5th. So if you have anything you'd like me to include under, I can do a whole section on the Youth Commission. And maybe we just have bullet points for now, and I can put it into words, or Marguerite's not here. I know she's sort of our resident writer of the group. We could provide her with some bullet points and have her submit it back to me to include. So I don't know if there's any highlights that you want to bring up.
Is this a annual kind of review, Sarah? Until what we've done in the past year?
Yes, so this is not fiscal year, but the calendar year 2022. I am going back and rereading every director's report that I've provided in 2022, which will have some information about the Youth Commission. So I'm happy to just use that as a guide, if that feels comfortable to you guys, but just wanted to give you the opportunity to.
Well, I think an important part is intertwined with the strategic plan and the work we've all done to kind of strengthen the Youth Commission. And in terms of what our goals are, what our job descriptions are, what the expectations of each of the members is. And I think we've made some huge strides in that area. Onboarding a couple new, several new members, and also the onboarding checklist that Lauren has created a draft of, I think is an accomplishment.
And I think our presence at outreach programs.
I think we've also tried to update the content on the town website, right? Regarding what we do. Participation in any kind of other town meetings, not necessarily the town meeting, but advisory. I know Lauren has been at several things on our behalf.
in addition to this, is there
Mhm.
anything from, you guys kind of, we're in the thick of it, so it's hard to look at it objectively, but is there anything that you think the department has done in the last year that is noteworthy that we should not forget to mention?
Other than everything that you do.
Everything. That's what I was thinking. I was like, all right, just like print up all the director's reports. Stick that in there.
Well,
I think you need to break it down into
Mhm.
categories. I think it'll be
Yep.
a lot easier for you.
yep.
I mean, maybe you do it by a service area,
yep.
prevention, outreach, counseling,
Mhm,
administrative
mhm.
oversight, that kind of thing. I think it,
Okay.
and I would probably do, the top 3 or 4 bullets. I don't think you need to go into every
Right.
minute
Mhm,
detail,
mhm.
but I think the most important thing to keep in mind in this, kind of very critical time in terms of the town's mental health and other issues that are prominent right now is that, the organization has really spearheaded some significant programs to address the burgeoning needs of the community. I think there's been a huge shift in the demand for services and particularly counseling service and mental health services and
Mhm.
mental health prevention and awareness in the past year. And you have spearheaded a lot of different activities, resources, services to provide the community with the support they need. So I think that is the most, I think if you show the increase in demand and how you guys have increased the supply of the services that we've been able to meet those. But this will continue, and in order to keep up that level of service, the town might need, we don't need to say this in the report, but I think it's reflective of the amount of work you have put into meeting this increased demand. It's been significant. And there's basically 5 of you, 6 of you doing this, and it's remarkable. And if you want me to write this piece, I will. I'd be happy to review it. I'm sure that Marguerite would be happy to. Sometimes it's easier to kind of look at a draft and have, when does this need to be submitted?
January 5th. So
That's right
yeah.
around the corner.
it is, yeah. And I
Well,
have to invest some more time on it. I've started it, but
Yeah, I mean, is it within the limits of the board for you to submit that for Marguerite and I to look at individually, or would this be something we need to review as a group?
typically every year I just submit it as part of my, a task
Yeah,
assigned to me as the director. But if you would like to take a look at it, and
I don't necessarily need to, but if you think it would be helpful, I'd be
sure.
happy to do that for.
Thank you.
Yeah, because sometimes it's hard to kind of do a self-evaluation. And sometimes
Yeah.
it's hard to see but I would keep it very high level.
Yeah. It's not written in such a way that it's all narrative. It's actually, as you suggested, broken down into different categories. So
Yeah.
a lot of it's data, like this is how many people we saw for counseling services
Yeah.
this year,
Yeah.
how many fuel assistance applications we did. But then also I'd like to just provide, I want to fill in the gaps for people in terms of how the heck did we get here? We're suddenly offering these 3 workshops, but when did that start and why? So.
Well, I think you have a good idea of where it's going to go, but if you need anybody to give you any kind of editing or input. I'm sure Marguerite and I would like to do that.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you for that offer. Sounds good.
Any other comments? Suggestions? I agree with Sarah. I think the other Sarah knows where she's going with this, but if we have anything. All right. So last, oh, not last, but next is increasing attendance at workshops. And part of our packet included a statistics spreadsheet on attendance and versus signups. I thought that was really informative. Just to summarize, it looked like sometimes you had a 50% or 100% attendance based on signups, and at other times there's, for instance, 12 people signed up and 0 attended, and maybe that's a special situation. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I have to be honest. I asked Shannon and Christina about this, and I was like, really? That seems really, I don't know what happened with that one particular, that's an outlier. That's the February 9th QPR. I have a feeling that maybe it was canceled versus 12 people not showing up.
Sarah, do you have this document handy?
I do, yeah. You want me to
Okay.
screen share it?
Yes, please.
Sure. Let's see.
I think it was at the very end.
You see that?
Yes.
Okay.
It's they're not, looks like aside from that one outlier, there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 canceled in a year.
Mhm.
And I'm wondering, what is the practice now if someone signs up for it? Do they reach out a day before and ask if you're still coming, or how do they know to cancel it? Just
Well-
based on attendance, signups?
Yeah, so I actually have strongly recommended to Shannon and Christina that we have a policy in writing that's communicated to people now, although it doesn't really provide us a ton of leverage, but just to minimize people's frustration, just like the rec department, if they offer a class and they don't have enough people registered, then it gets canceled. But so we have the issue of not having enough people attend or register in the first place, but then also we have our fair share of people who just no show altogether, who don't tell us that they're not coming, and don't show up. So we have no communication from them. So ideally, we would hold a workshop for 5 people. The problem is that we can count on 2 or 3 of those 5 people no showing and not
Can you
communicating to
remind
us.
how or if they're reminded to come?
They are, yes, I'm sorry, that was your question. They are reminded several times.
Okay.
So they're reminded that they signed up. We even try to impress upon them that, that there's limited space. And so even though we may not have an actual list of people who are waiting to get into a QPR or otherwise workshop, we try to impress upon them that if they can't make it, we really would love to hear from them so we can offer the spot to somebody else. And, I think we kind of talked about this last week when people, when they're not paying for it, there's no consequence to them, to just not go. And with all of us, we as parents and family members ourselves and busy people working, we get it, that when your time is precious and it's, you have so many responsibilities, and that this time is being competed with, other issues that need attention, understandably, it gets canceled. But, we have no leverage if somebody no shows and doesn't communicate to us. We we can't really say, there's no refund or anything like that, or so it just can get frustrating some of the time. So basically the policy that we're going to employ moving forward is that we have to have at least 5 people registered. Ideally, we like to say we'd like to have 7 people, because of the fact that we know that 2 or 3 people will not come at the last minute. Some of them will even tell us they're not coming, some won't. But Shannon has done, let's see, she's done some workshops for as few as 3 people. I'm not seeing one on here, but
The first one,
the first,
Wednesday, December 1st, 7 was signed up, 3 was only there.
And April 27th.
I wonder
Oh,
if there's,
or that was no shows, sorry.
is there a way, Sarah, do you know via email who doesn't show?
yes, because Shannon does have a sign-in sheet.
Right, and she
Yeah.
has a sign-in sheet. I'm just wondering, I mean, we don't want to penalize people, but you almost want to say, if
Please
there's
don't
the
do
people
that.
that keep signing up, like you
Yeah,
get like
yeah.
3 strikes, and then sorry, you can't keep signing up for these things if you don't
Mhm.
show up.
Mhm.
I mean, it's one of those things, like, we don't want to be like exclusionary and say you're not allowed to keep signing up. But it is to the detriment of people, and it's frustrating, but
Mhm.
I don't know.
Mhm. Well, it does impact the experience of those people who do come to the workshop, because we
Right.
decide to move forward with the workshop when we have enough people registered. Based off of our understanding of how many people are registered. And then
Right.
when that doesn't happen, Shannon is very comfortable and easygoing, and we'll do a workshop for one person if she had to, if she didn't anticipate all but one person not showing up. But it's really, we'd much rather tell that one person, hey, why don't you come to this workshop coming up in the future, because we've got 6 people registered over there, versus attempting to run it.
And their experience is much richer when they have other people to collaborate,
Absolutely.
talk with, and
Yep,
like,
yeah.
because I'm in a couple where the conversations are a lot more stimulating because there's more people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so.
Yeah. All of this being said, we did talk about previously that you all as the board wanted to pilot, I believe it was just 6 months, right, to start of being more prolific with our advertising, inviting members of other communities to come to these workshops. And so, some of this is just providing you with some baseline data. I can't recall if there was more that we wanted to talk about here.
No, I think it just was helping our conversation
Mhm.
to be able to see some facts
Mhm.
and stats.
Yeah.
Sarah, at one point, I think you had mentioned the prospect of narrowing down the number of trainings, like for example, the QPR, because that seems to be the one that's most often given, and also the one that's most often
Yeah.
has the attendance challenges. Is that still under consideration to
Yeah, we
skinny
did.
up the list?
Yeah, we did talk about that. QPR is offered a lot at the very beginning of this list because it was the only workshop we were offering at the time. And now you can see it's interspersed with other things. And Shannon's actually working on yet another workshop. So yeah, I do think that having them less frequently, because people will just go, I'll just catch it the next time around. We do fear that this will continue to happen because, again, we have no leverage. And, as much as we ask people, even plead with people to please just communicate to us if you can't make it, time and time again, people don't, which makes it really hard for us to predict whether to move forward with something or not. But
Sarah, my recommendation, I agree with David and yourself that I think the frequency is probably, I know in the beginning, you're trying to figure out, what the programming is going to be like, but what I would do is kind of like what the rec department does, is put out, a quarterly workshop sign up. And these are the 4 workshops. They're each going to be offered twice. There is a 25 person limit to each, and you better hurry up and sign up because space is limited. And I think that although it's really nice to offer these services on such a frequent basis, I think that's probably why you're losing some of the mojo behind it.
We need to manufacture scarcity.
Yeah,
Yes.
sense of urgency.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, maybe it is because it looks like it's so easy to
Going fast.
pop out of one and jump into it.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I think then you might get bigger groups, and then it's more less threatening to people than just sitting with 3 or 4 other people talking about very significant
Mhm.
mental health issues. And I think if it's posted ahead of time, this is it. This is what the program's going to be.
Mhm.
Like the rec department, wherever they do that, you do it on, website, please sign up. You can use Eventbrite or something like that.
Well, this actually may affect this whole process too. So my senior center, one of the main features of that software is it's a registration platform.
Yeah, great.
So I think that will help tremendously with this piece too. But yeah, I can go back to Shannon and Christina with that
Mhm.
feedback.
Just back to the topic of no shows and no communication. Do you have like a note on there, maybe on the reminder that says that if attendance drops below a certain level, the class can't be run?
Mhm.
You do.
Mhm. Yep. I honestly think that half the time that if somebody's no showing, it's because something is, happening at home, and that they're probably not even seeing our communication to them, even though we do. It's not just the day before that we're communicating, it's also the week before, just a reminder that you've signed up for this workshop, and so people just have very
You could
busy
put-
lives.
You could put a little guilt in there too, though,
Mhm.
and just remind people that,
Should we post a picture of someone on Facebook and be like, this
Yes,
person
Like a
right
sad
here.
person
Thank
sitting
you.
alone at a desk.
Or I was gonna say, it's like
most wanted.
wanted. This person
Yeah.
signed up 3
You will-
times and didn't.
You will be added to the no-show list. We have a no-show
It's like
Facebook.
being on Santa's naughty list.
The naughty list, the no-show list.
Don't write that down, Sarah.
Yeah,
These are not helpful ideas.
It's a lot to take in. And we keep talking about it, but I think it's something we'll just have to keep
Mhm.
on our
I ha-
radars. And
Yeah. I have honestly said to myself a few times, are we offering something that the community doesn't want? I think the answer to that is no. And the other thing is, this is something that I feel the community needs. And I know they want it. I think the issue is, do they know they need it? And we're also trying.
I think that's
Mhm.
exactly it. They don't know what they need, or it might be too scary. Everybody needs this kind of training. Let's be real. We can all improve ourselves through this kind of workshops, but what you need and what you want or think you need is a lot
Mhm.
different. So,
Mhm.
Improving yourself and your ability to communicate with other human beings is, is sometimes overwhelming. And I think a lot of people, sign up because, oh, that's a great idea. And I think you're totally right. Something happens at home, or they're tired, or they're just like, it's just a town workshop. I think that generally is the problem. But I think if we manufacture scarcity, as you say, this is what, we only offer this, they're in high demand. It's only going to happen 2 times in the next 3 months. So we'd like you to sign up now, and please commit your time or your effort to show up, because it's really important to other people who have committed to attend also.
In addition to scarcity, like some testimonials of like, oh my gosh, I really learned this and I implemented this. Like I talked to my son and had a great conversation, so some real life way that people could use what they've learned and bring it into their home with family, friends, relationships, and how it's impacted their, communication style or whatever. So, because I know you hear a workshop, say it with love, listen with love, and then people don't really understand how much of an impact, that has on your daily life and how that can be helpful. So I don't know if there's a way to communicate, get that across, but.
Along that same line is, how do people find out about these workshops that end up attending? Is it through flyers or through Facebook, or do you have that information?
I
It's-
asked that,
Oh,
I'm
go ahead,
sorry.
Karen. Nope, go ahead, Karen.
I asked that at the last meeting I went to, and I thought the answer might be Facebook. A lot of people said My Southborough. So that was interesting to me. So a lot of people are not going on Facebook and getting this information.
So I
So
wonder if we could convince My Southborough to add some testimonials to the ad, or because that is exactly what we're finding is the people who go on that have taken the classes and they go on to Southborough's community Facebook page and they say, really, this was so good, or they go on their personal page and they say, this was personal to me and please do it, and people sign up for it then.
right.
But if our track is not, I don't know how many of those people that have heard personal testimonials end up actually showing up. But I think that that's right on track with, I was wondering if we could post some to your Facebook page as well, or have, you'll post that you have an upcoming workshop, and I think it might be helpful, not in the comments section, but have some testimonials ready to go for those advertisements that are saying, this is why you want to attend, this is great, and we could start by some of us that have attended it, but
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely done that on my personal page and the Southborough community page, and people have joined on and said, I'm joining up next, and but I don't think my reach is broad enough, because I don't think a lot of people, that's why I asked at the last seminar, I'm like, who's getting this from Facebook? And a lot of people said My Southborough. So I think that's a great idea, Lauren. I think if we could put it in, the virtual backpacks or some kind of, testimonials where people get it, otherwise not on social media, because there's a lot of people out there that just say, I'm staying off social media, which is fine. So if they use My Southborough, other ways of getting information, and we put some testimonials, I think that might be a good first step, worth a shot.
Sure.
Or even if we put it on like flyers at the library, and people just, when you're standing there and you're waiting for kids or something. So just some visibility around town with some great quotes of whatever,
Yeah, we can reach out to all of the previous participants and see if anybody's willing to submit a testimonial for us to include with a dedicated post on My Southborough about the workshops.
Or could we send out a Google form asking how did they hear about it too?
I think we do that
Oh,
already.
okay.
That's data that we generally collect for every service is how did you find out about this?
Okay, so we know if it's through Facebook or myself or okay.
I believe so. I will double check on that, but
Nancy, you're welcome to, so
Nancy has to
we'll
go.
see you next meeting.
Yep, gonna head out.
Okay, thank you.
Bye,
Everybody.
Nancy.
Hanukkah
Bye.
Happy
celebration.
Hanukkah.
Thank you.
All right, we still have quorum, and any other comments along that? I think we've had a good discussion on that.
I agree.
Yep, so
Um,
we'll implement some changes in the new year and continue to monitor it and report back to you guys eventually on that.
Sounds good. Did you want to discuss updating the upcoming training dates, or do you want to have another look at them and try to reduce them?
Sorry, say that one more time.
Part of our agenda was upcoming training dates, which I think
Oh,
were for
okay.
the workshops.
Yes, I think that was to let board members know about workshops that are coming up because it's helpful to have you guys attend to get feedback on the workshops, but also you know, to continue to sort of be ambassadors of the department. And so I don't have those in front of me, but I do know that the upcoming training dates for all of the workshops are part of the director's report. If you go to the monthly highlights, the very last section of monthly highlights says upcoming events, and I have listed there all of the upcoming QPR dates. Maybe for all of the people at home that are watching our meeting right now, maybe I can go back to the beginning and grab that. Let's see. Yes,
Or-
so
Okay,
QPR, we have one in January on January 9th, and we have another on February 1st.
okay.
Okay. And because you know, suicide prevention has always been an important thing, but I think right now it's on people's minds because of some very public specifically with Twitch. I didn't follow him, but I know that a lot of people were pretty upset to hear about his passing by suicide. So we aren't trying to name him specifically in terms of advertising it, but really I think that this is on a lot of people's radars. And so Christina, Shannon, and I are working on trying to find a posting to either reshare with the information and remind people about 988, but also remind them about the workshops being, this workshop in particular being available.
Can I just
So-
say that for our group, anyone who hasn't taken that, I'd really recommend it. And I thought I knew a lot about suicide coming into it, but it was very helpful.
Really nice to do in person too. We do have an online option as well. We've been able to purchase a number of online QPR trainings if we have enough people who, you know, we've had a few people who have been really flexible when we've had to cancel their training and we say, please join us for the next one. And we keep deferring them to a future training because of cancellations. We ultimately have been trying to offer an online opportunity for them instead of just keep pushing them off. But really, ideally, attending in person is the best option because you have an opportunity to practice the skills and ask questions of somebody. Same thing with both Listen with Love and Say It with Love. We have one workshop in January and one in February. So the January Listen with Love is January 18th. And Listen with Love in February is February 6th. And again, this workshop is an extension of QPR. It's really about how to listen and offer support to someone, encourage them to keep talking. QPR suicide prevention is really very specifically about what to do and what not to do in that instance. And Listen with Love is really sort of generally supporting somebody's who's struggling. And really just good strategies for relationships in general. And then again, Say It With Love is one workshop in January, one in February. The January workshop is January 24th. And the February workshop for Say It With Love is February 15th. I need
Little
to plug in.
Valentine's Day treat there.
Yes. I need to plug in my computer really quick. I know we're
Okay.
nearing the end, but I don't want to get kicked
Okay.
off suddenly. Be right back.
All right. And then when Sarah's back, we'll be talking about the plans for Mental Health Awareness Month in May, which we've seems like we're back on track to have a pretty good month this year where we can meet in person finally.
Exciting, huh?
Mm-hmm. There we go.
Thank you.
Is Sarah Mental Health Month in May?
Yes. So again, this is another repeat item on the agenda because kind of like the 2022 annual report, I wanted to ask the board to think about ideas or programs, events, things that we should be offering in May. Typically the department staff put something together, works on it, and then kind of just shares the information with the board. But I know we want to solicit your feedback and involvement as much as possible. And we're pretty early in the planning stages. We did just learn that the Cultural Arts Council approved a grant proposal that we submitted to bring back, I don't know if you guys remember Kim Welch, but she was an art therapist that we had hired through a different grant, and she did a several month long mindful art workshop, which was really fantastic. So she's going to come back for a one-time community art event, a mindful art event that incorporates mindfulness and art, with a final project being a collaborative art project that will be displayed as part of the Celebrate Wellness event at the end of the month. So we have some things in the works for Mental Health Awareness Month, but really welcome the board's thoughts on things that you think we should be offering or considering. So I don't know if there's any thoughts. We are certainly welcome to just take care of it and let you know what comes of it, if that's your preference, but.
We'd offer our support, I know that. So anything that we can do to help and be
think
there
if we
for.
Could do like maybe a Saturday program on mindfulness and meditation, just some basics. If we could get a professional in who kind of runs through breathing techniques and I don't know what else, but I think it's really helpful. And I know for my family, for stress relief and coping, we do a lot of centeredness and keeping focus to relieve anxiety and things like that. It might be fun. I did something during COVID with my dad and my brother-in-law online. It was a master class on meditation taught by some guru, And even though we're all in our separate little places, I just found it really great, and we connected with a lot of the other people who were part of the program. And it just kind of it creates a community. So I think it would be really cool to have a meditation sit-in or something. We could raise money too for the National Association of Mental Illness or suicide prevention or something like that.
The theme this year was something about light, right?
Leave the light on.
Leave the light on.
Yep.
Just throwing this out there is without really thinking about it, but some kind of paper lantern project or something where a paper bag with a
We
thing in
actually,
it that all go on display, and you can write a little message about mental health on it, or
yep. We had, so the town that I live in did a luminary event as part of this holiday extravaganza weekend long thing. And you could purchase luminary bags through the recreation department and then put them out in front of your house, and town-wide you could do that. So I participated in that just because I wanted to see what the product looked like and also learn more about it. It was fun. I think the problem is that if you live in a community where people are really spread out and that you've got luminaries at really random places. So like the road I live on, for example, nobody's driving by my road on my road unless you live there. So it didn't quite have the impact as it would if, say, everybody went to a centrally located place and all the luminaries were lit up in the kind of like
how about pumpkin
Pumpkin
lighting?
stroll, like the pumpkin stroll.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you know what that is,
Where-
Sarah?
Yes, I do.
Pumpkin
That's
light, okay.
Rotary's event, right? They do
Right.
that on the wall next to the library, right?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea to have everyone meet at a certain spot.
Yeah. It feels like you would need to make more of an event of it, or maybe it could be at Celebrate Wellness at the community house. We could have people, they don't even necessarily, it would be great if we got more people to come to the event, but maybe they don't even necessarily have to be there. We have the community house all lit up with luminary bags.
Well, it could be a fundraiser too that maybe friends could do, where families could purchase 10 luminary bags for, in memory of somebody, or,
In honor of someone.
yeah,
Mhm.
in honor of someone. And I think it's a great idea. We could have it. The fire department's right next door, so that's good too.
Yeah, well, actually, the luminary bags we did in my town, they were all the tiny little battery operated
Yeah,
ones.
the tea lights. Yeah,
You turn the switch on and there you go.
yeah, that sounds
And they
better.
were plenty bright and
If it's a windy day, that kind of gets scary. I also thought it'd be interesting to do like a nighttime or dusk vigil or something, where you'd walk and you might have a candle and in support of people who are struggling with mental health issues or something like that. We're bringing you the light or something, and then we light a big campfire or a giant candle. I don't know, but it'd be nice to bring people together. And I think together it kind of shatters the stigma. It makes people realize that you're all part of a community and you're supporting each other. So
I agree. Yeah. And even if you make it a family event, get your kids, purchase your luminaries. And even if people parked at Woodward, parked wherever, and then we all walked and met at the community house or whatever. So
Yeah.
that's symbolic of meeting at the community house, bringing the community together. You don't all have to park there, obviously, because the parking is so limited. But if we had some way to get there, it's dangerous to walk along the side of the road, but I don't know. it might be able to,
Yeah, but I think that, the police could.
Yeah, we
provide some-
typically have a police detail or two.
Yeah. and if we had them kind of like Heritage Day, block off certain roads, and if we had people able to park at Woodward, people able to park at the library around. And then just all walked and met at the community house, that could be pretty impactful and.
And we wouldn't even have to have the real candles. They do have
Yeah.
like the long LED ones too, or something like that. But I think it would be very thought-provoking, emotional, connecting experience.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would
and a little
love
more
something like that.
Everybody
participation than
loves-
just, more participation than just having them drop off a candle, so, and it's kind of,
Right,
Yeah.
right, right,
Yeah,
right. And, like, I don't think I would have had that insight had I not participated in my own town, that I knew a lot of people had bought luminaries and put them out in their front yard. But because there's such random pockets of people doing it, it didn't have the same effect as having everybody come together in one place and
I think it'd be remarkable.
collectively. Yeah, collectively leaving the light on,
Yeah.
Okay. Any other thoughts or suggestions?
I'll let it percolate for a while, so maybe we can regroup at our.
Yeah. You
next-
know what, I think also everybody should feel free to just reach out to us too, individually, if you have an idea that, and we can bring it up at a future board meeting, but really, we just wanted to make sure that we're, again, we're in the thick of it, so we can't look sort of objectively, and you all have great ideas and we value your input. So if you have thoughts at a later time, you should feel free to reach out to us and let us know.
I think we talked about this last meeting, but we could have the businesses around town selling them too, and so it's just at the cash register when you're checking out at Morio's or when you're at like, Southborough, wherever, so Nan's, it's just their way of showing that they're, supporting the community effort and everything like that. And so it's just more presence. And if people see them there too,
Yeah,
instead of just, the friends selling them, great as a fundraiser, but I think having them seen around town is just a lot more,
we
Mhm.
can
impact
promote
it.
it at the preschool, at the schools. We could have a table set out, once, one day, and people could come and pick up buy their luminary bags with their families or whatever. So
True.
I think it's a great idea. Let's go for it.
Great.
And we could help, the youth commission could help set that up too, so do use us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I have to be in touch with our rec department to find out, okay, what did you buy exactly? What was the cost? Because there will be a cost going into it. How would we pay for that?
Yeah, but talk to, and friends let's talk to
Yeah.
the friends.
Yeah, we can talk to.
Yeah, we'll work out the financials.
Great.
All right, and friends update, speaking of friends.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, so we're still kicking around the idea of March Madness, kind of local businesses, and we're donating a percentage of the profits on a particular night. We're trying to do March, like every Thursday in March, where someone would go and they do takeout or order in a certain percentage. So we're ironing out which businesses and which nights. So that's still in the works. I have an update from the November 19th community house. We kind of paired with Chelsea, and she had a little photo shoot thing, and it was a little vendor event. So vendors donated gifts. We had 22 gifts donated, and we sold 304 raffle tickets. We made, after some fees for the card readers, we made $526.38. And it was really good publicity for the friends. I think a lot of people came. Annual campaign, there was $1,000 check brought in from St. Mary's Credit Union. And I have a note here that Kathy, Sue, and Leslie voted to spend $9,000 from unrestricted funds towards Winter Wishes for 2022.
For 2020, okay, yeah.
Yeah, 9,000 from the unrestricted funds went towards Winter Wishes. And then Mental Health Awareness Month, obviously, Friends of South FYSC is looking to help any way they can. And the next meeting is January 11th. I don't have the finance updates from Kathy Cook. She was going to provide them, but I can get those after the next January 11th meeting of all the balances and the accounts and everything. So
Thank you very much. We had listed a reminder of the Ellen Piontek Scholarship. Did that come up? Or did I just miss that?
That, yeah, that's sort of a, Karen, you might not even be aware of that
I
because that was
don't
a
know what that is.
conversation. Yeah. So Ellen Piontek is a former director of Youth and Family Services long before me. She's still very much doing great. It's not a memorial scholarship is what I mean to say. She lives locally and she and I connect on occasion. She worked for the department before I was even hired. She was the director before Laurie Sugarman Whittier, who was my previous director. Anyway, a scholarship was, the Youth Commission at the time made a scholarship in her name when she left, highlighting the importance of community service, not only for the community, but also for the individual doing the service. And so thus was established the Ellen Piontek Scholarship, awarded to a graduating senior from Southborough. And the funding from the scholarship comes from Friends, and then the Youth Commission is tasked with choosing the recipient based off of the applicants. So I think that is a Friends update because Friends did vote to once again fund a scholarship for one recipient at $1,000. So so we have let Algonquin know that we'd like to do that again. And Friends has, specifically Kathy, Sue, and Leslie has said, yes, please ask the Youth Commission if they would be willing to review the applicants and choose a recipient, just like we do most years. And so we will, I believe, have that on the agenda for the April meeting, if I am to remember correctly.
I'm just curious, do you get several applicants or not, or is it just?
Yeah, there's some
Mhm.
years we
Oh,
get
that's
like,
good.
yeah, some years that there's like 6 or 7 of them. There's been a few years where there were fewer, but I would say generally it's between like 5 and 7, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so. Last year, I thought we got quite a few.
Yeah.
Mhm.
it
And they
can
have to write
actually-
a little blurb of why they're deserving.
Mhm.
Yes, they have to write,
There's an application.
yeah, there's questions, but then they also have an essay that they have to write.
So Algonquin puts that on their website or something, or
Yeah,
distributes it out.
Algonquin, yeah, Algonquin manages the whole thing. We just have to provide them the application.
Cool.
Yeah, and actually what ends up happening, because it's an online application, we get pinged over at our office every time somebody applies. And what you can expect is in the meeting packet for that meeting, Christina will put together redacted, all of the applications will be redacted so that you don't know the identity of who the applicants are. And that way you're voting just based off of the content of the application itself versus, knowing, because chances are a lot of you guys will know some of the applicants, so.
That's fair.
Any other questions tonight? Comments? All right. So we could have a vote to adjourn. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to adjourn the December 20th meeting of the Youth Commission at 8:51.
I'll second.
Sarah Micas,
Aye.
Susan Byer,
Aye.
Karen Anglem,
Aye.
Lauren Ritchie, and David Joyner.
Aye.
All right. Well, I hope everyone has a fantastic holiday season, and we will see you in January.
Yes, happy, safe, healthy
Yes.
New Year.
Happy holidays.
Happy
Happy
New
holidays,
Year.
Everybody.
All right.
Merry
Take care.
Christmas.
Sarah, I'm surprised you
Go
didn't mention
Bills.
the Bills. I was waiting. I was
Sorry,
waiting.
I had to.
I was like, wow, I'm gonna get past this meeting. She's not gonna say anything.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.